AITA for making my fiancée admit who she already chose for our open relationship. My name is Marcus, I'm 32, and for the past 3 years, I lived in the downstairs half of an old duplex in Portland, Oregon, with my fiancée Tessa. I work as a facilities coordinator for a community college, which basically means I spend my days solving problems nobody notices unless I fail at them. A leaking pipe in the West Science Building, a classroom projector that refuses to wake up, a faculty office that is somehow both too hot and too cold. I'm the guy people email when the building is quietly falling apart. Tessa was 31 and worked as a wedding photographer. Our apartment always had memory cards on the kitchen counter, half-charged camera batteries by the couch, and at least one bouquet drying upside down from a cabinet handle because she swore the colors might inspire a future-styled shoot. We were supposed to get married in October. Until a few weeks before everything came apart. I honestly thought the biggest problem in our relationship was that she wanted a champagne wall at the reception, and I thought that sounded like a lawsuit with bubbles. We lived in a slightly drafty duplex with old hardwood floors, a narrow driveway, and a shared backyard that turned into a shallow pond every time it rained hard for more than 20 minutes. It was not fancy, but it was ours. On Friday nights, we ordered Thai food from the place around the corner. On Sundays, we did Costco runs and argued gently about whether 2 people needed a 30-pack of paper towels. Our Google Calendar was packed with wedding appointments, vendor deadlines, Tessa's shoots, and my campus maintenance walkthroughs. We were not the couple people expected to have loud problems. We were the reliable couple, the ones who brought folding chairs, remembered birthdays, stayed late to help clean up, and split mozzarella sticks at the bar while our friends debated things too loudly. Tessa had the big energy. I was the one checking whether the parking meter had enough time left. I liked being that guy. I liked being her calm place to land. Looking back, I think I mistook being calm for being safe. The first strange thing happened on a Wednesday night in March. Tessa came home from a vendor mixer wearing a black jumpsuit I had never seen before and smelling like the expensive vanilla perfume she usually saved for weddings. I was on the couch with leftover chili, working through our reception seating chart on my laptop. She kissed my forehead, leaned over my shoulder, and said, "Don't put Nolan near your sister. Dana will interrogate him." I looked up. "Who's Nolan?" She laughed too fast. "A videographer. You met him at that rooftop vendor thing." "I don't think I did." "You did. Tall guy. Beard. Always wears those leather bracelets." I would have remembered him, mostly because Tessa said his name like it had already been living in our apartment for months. But wedding planning makes everyone weird, so I let it go. I just moved a few names around on the spreadsheet and said, "Noted. No Nolan near Dana." Tessa smiled, but it was the kind of smile people use when they're checking whether a door is locked. After that, she started talking about relationships differently. Not ours, exactly, but relationships in general. She sent me podcast clips about deconstructing ownership. She left a copy of The Ethical Slut on our coffee table like it had fallen from the ceiling. She asked me, while we were brushing our teeth one night, "Do you think jealousy is just fear wearing a nicer shirt?" I had toothpaste in my mouth. I said, "I think I need coffee before philosophy." She didn't laugh. Another time, while I was packing leftovers into plastic containers, she said, "It's interesting how many people default into monogamy without ever consciously choosing it." I snapped a lid onto a container. I consciously chose not to date anyone else when I proposed, if that counts. She gave me a look as if I had answered the wrong question on a test. "That's not what I mean." "What do you mean?" She rinsed her glass and said, "Nothing. Just thinking." That was Tessa's new favorite phrase. Just thinking. She said it after podcast clips, after weird questions, and after little comments about how brave certain couples were for being honest about desire. It all felt rehearsed, but not in a way I knew how to object to without sounding insecure. The actual conversation happened at our little kitchen table over takeout noodles that went cold before either of us finished eating. Tessa had been quiet all evening. Not sad quiet, but rehearsed quiet. The kind where someone is waiting for the right lighting to deliver a line. Rain tapped against the kitchen window, and the baseboard heater clicked like it was trying to participate. She set her fork down and said, "I need to ask you something, and I need you not to react like I'm attacking you." That sentence should come with a siren. I wiped my mouth with a napkin. "Okay." She took a breath. I've been thinking about whether monogamy is really something we chose or something we just defaulted into. I stared at her. She kept going. I love you. I want to marry you. But I don't think love has to mean closing every other door forever. My first feeling was not anger. It was embarrassment, which surprised me. It felt like she had walked into a room where I was singing badly and caught me believing in us too loudly. I asked, "Are you asking to open the relationship?" Her eyes were already wet. She nodded. "Not because you're not enough. Please don't make it about that." That annoyed me more than the question itself. She had brought a grenade to dinner and was asking me not to comment on the smoke. I said, "Is there someone specific?" Her face changed. Not dramatically, just enough, like a tab closing. "No," she said. "This is about us." I watched her hand move to her glass and then away from it. "Then why now?" "Because we're about to get married," she said. "And I want us to be honest before we make vows. I don't want either of us to wake up resentful in 10 years. I wanted to say that I was not the one quietly building resentment in the guest room like IKEA furniture. But I didn't. I sat there, listening to the refrigerator hum, and the rain hit the window. "Finally," I said, "I need to think." Her shoulders dropped, almost with relief. "Of course. Take all the time you need." I slept on the couch that night because lying next to her felt like agreeing to something I did not understand. The couch was too short, and one of the cushions had a permanent dip from years of movie nights. Around 3 a.m., the upstairs neighbor's dog started pacing, nails clicking across the ceiling. I stared at the dark shape of our bookcase and tried to figure out when my life had become a conversation I had not been invited to until the agenda was already printed. The next morning, Tessa acted hopeful, as if the hard part was over. She made coffee in my travel mug and said, "I'm really proud of how maturely we handled that." "We didn't handle it," I said. "You asked." I didn't answer. Her smile tightened. "Right. Of course." For 3 days, she treated me like a nervous rescue dog. Soft voice, careful hands, and lots of checking in. But every check-in had the same destination. "Have you thought more about what I said? Do you feel like you could ever be curious? Would it help if we started slowly?" On Friday evening, I got home from campus after dealing with a flooded storage closet behind the theater department. My socks were damp. My phone had 4 unread vendor emails, and Tessa was sitting at the kitchen table with a candle lit. We did not light candles on ordinary Fridays. That was my first warning. I put my keys in the bowl. "Maybe we can talk," I said. "But if we even discuss this, there need to be rules." She brightened so quickly it hurt. "Absolutely," she said. "Rules are healthy." So I opened a Google document. I titled it Relationship Boundaries Draft, because I work at a community college and apparently cannot stop naming things like policy memos. Tessa sat beside me, one knee tucked under her, watching me type. I wrote that neither of us could involve anyone we had already been romantic or physical with. No mutual friends, co-workers, clients, or professional contacts. Full disclosure before anything happened, not after. Everyone involved had to know the relationship was newly open and mutually agreed upon. Either person could pause the arrangement if it started damaging the relationship. No wedding party, family events, or shared social spaces involved. And before any of it, we would see a counselor. By the time I got to professional contacts, Tessa's breathing changed. "That feels restrictive," she said. "It should," I said. "We're engaged. We're not trying to start a neighborhood free trial." She folded her arms. "Professional contacts is vague. My whole social life is professional contacts. That sounds like a reason not to do this right now." She stared at the screen. "I thought you were open-minded." I looked at her and realized she had expected grief, not logistics. She had prepared for me to be hurt. She had not prepared for me to be specific. "I'm trying to be fair," I said. "No," she said. "You're trying to control the terms so nothing can happen. Terms are the point of a mutual agreement." She stood up and walked to the sink, even though there were no dishes in it. "I need space." I almost apologized. It rose up automatically, like a reflex. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make this harder. I'm sorry, I'm trying. I'm sorry your uncomfortable request became uncomfortable." Instead, I closed the laptop and said, "Okay." The first real clue came from Venmo. Tessa and I were not married, but we had messy, almost married finances. Shared grocery list, shared wedding spreadsheet, shared streaming passwords, and a shared Venmo history because we were always paying each other back for deposits, errands, or one of us forgetting a wallet at a food cart pod. That Saturday morning, I was sending her half of the florist deposit when I saw a public transaction from Nolan to Tessa from 2 weeks earlier. The note was just a red heart and a camera emoji. I clicked his profile. I know that sounds like snooping, and maybe it was. But there it was, public and casual, sitting between payments for coffee, parking, and emergency tacos. There were several transactions between them over the past month. One from Tessa to Nolan said, "You saved me tonight." I felt ridiculous for noticing emojis like evidence. Then I felt ridiculous for feeling ridiculous. When Tessa got home from a shoot that afternoon, she dropped her camera bag by the couch and started pulling memory cards out of little plastic cases. I held up my phone. "Can I ask about these?" She glanced once and looked away. "Vendor stuff. The heart. He sends hearts to everyone. That's convenient." Her head snapped up. "Are you serious right now?" "I'm asking a question." "No, you're monitoring me. I saw a public transaction while paying you for the florist." "This is exactly why I was scared to talk to you," she said. "You say you're calm, but you're actually controlling." There it was. The word she had been saving. Controlling. I did what I always did when arguments got sharp. I backed up. I apologized for my tone, but not for the question. Then I said I needed air and walked to the corner store, where I bought a bottle of ginger ale I did not want just so I had something to do with my hands. On the way back, my sister Dana called. Dana is 34, 2 years older than me, and has the kind of voice that can make a customer service representative rethink their entire policy. She had never been mean to Tessa, but she had never been charmed by her, either. Dana loved facts. She distrusted dramatic timing. She also knew me too well. I had not told her everything. Just enough to say Tessa had asked for something big, and I was confused. I stood under the awning of a closed dry cleaner while rain blew sideways and told her about the open relationship request, the rules, the Venmo notes, and the way Tessa had called me controlling. Dana let me talk. Then she said, "Do not have any more important conversations without writing down what was said afterward." "That sounds insane." "No," she said. "Insane is letting someone make you the villain in a story you didn't know they were writing." I shifted the ginger ale from one cold hand to the other. "I don't want to treat my relationship like a legal file." "Then don't. Treat it like your memory matters." I hated how reasonable that sounded. When I got home, Tessa was editing on the couch with headphones on. The TV was off, the room lit blue by her laptop screen. She looked small under a blanket, and for a second I wanted to sit beside her and pretend we were still the people I thought we were. Instead, I showered, changed, and wrote down what I remembered from our argument in a note on my phone. The truth came from the shared iPad, which makes it sound like I went digging through drawers at midnight. I didn't. Tessa used the iPad for editing previews when her laptop was rendering. I used it for recipes and watching basketball while folding laundry. It lived on the kitchen counter between the mail basket and a bowl of keys. A few nights after the Venmo argument, Tessa went to shower. I was cleaning up after dinner, scraping rice into the trash, when the iPad lit up with a calendar notification. Vendor retreat, Bend, final headcount due. Under it was a preview from Nolan. Can't wait to not pretend for once. I stared at that sentence until the screen went dark. My stomach did something I can only describe as falling through the floor and then politely closing the trapdoor behind it. I did not open the message. I did not need to. But I did open the shared calendar because that was ours, and the retreat was on it. Tessa had added it 2 months earlier as work weekend, possible. 2 months earlier. Before the podcasts. Before the book. Before the kitchen table speech. I clicked the event. There was a note attached that said, N+T arrival Friday. Separate rooms on paper. I took a picture of the screen with my phone. Then I did something I am still proud of. I did not confront her while she was behind a bathroom door, and I was shaking. I walked outside, stood under the porch awning in the rain, and called Priya. Priya was 33, a friend to both of us, and a family law paralegal. She had a talent for making messy people sound like case summaries without sounding cold. She did not like being dragged into couple drama, which was exactly why I trusted her. I told her everything. The request. The rules. Nolan. The calendar. The message preview. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Marcus, I need you to hear this clearly." She may be trying to create a consent trail. A what? A record that makes it look like you agreed to open the relationship before the retreat. Texts. Google Docs. Conversations with friends. Anything that lets her say, he knew. He was fine. Then he got insecure. The rain dripped from the porch gutter in a steady line. I said, "You think she planned this?" "I think the timing is not random." Suddenly, the last week rearranged itself. Tessa asking me to text her my thoughts instead of talking in person. Tessa telling me to process with friends and suggesting which friends. Tessa pushing me to write rules in a shared document, then arguing about specific rules without ever admitting why. Tessa calling me controlling the moment I asked about Nolan. It was not a conversation. It was a paper trail. "What do I do?" I asked. Priya's voice stayed calm. "Do not accuse her based on emotion. Ask clear questions. Keep records. Don't let her summarize your position for other people." I almost laughed because it sounded like advice for a committee meeting. Then again, committee meetings were one of the few places I knew how to survive. The next morning, Tessa made coffee as if nothing had happened. She wore one of my old community college sweatshirts and had her hair in a messy knot. For one painful second, I wondered if I was overreacting. Maybe the note meant something else. Maybe not pretend meant professional networking. Maybe separate rooms on paper was some vendor retreat booking joke I did not understand. Then she said, "I know the rules conversation got tense, but I'm glad we're finally being honest." That word did it. Honest. I set my mug down. I'm willing to have one serious conversation about opening the relationship. Her whole body relaxed. "But I want it to be real," I said. "Not vague. If we do this, we do it like adults." "Yes," she said quickly. "Exactly. So we start by telling each other if there's anyone already on our minds." Her eyes dropped to her coffee. "No pressure? No punishment," I said. "But no lies." She rubbed her thumb along the handle of her mug. "I mean, Nolan and I have chemistry. I wasn't going to act on it without talking to you." That sentence landed like a glass dropped on tile. I kept my voice even. "Have you already told him we're opening the relationship?" "No." I watched her mouth more than her eyes. Her mouth moved first. Her eyes followed. "Then you won't mind if we all sit down before anything happens," I said. She blinked. "Oh, you, me, and Nolan. If this is ethical, everyone should be informed." Her cheeks went red. "That's humiliating." "What part?" "Making him come and talk to my fiancé like he's asking permission." "He is," I said. "So are you. So would I be if there were someone else." She stood and carried her mug to the sink. It hit the basin hard enough to chip the rim. For the first time, I did not apologize for making the room uncomfortable. A half hour later, from the parking lot at work, I sent Nolan a message from my own Instagram account. "Hey Nolan, this is Marcus, Tessa's fiancé. Tessa told me you may be part of the open relationship conversation we're having. Before anything moves forward, I'd like all three of us to be clear on timelines and boundaries. Are you free to meet for coffee Sunday?" Then I went into a staff meeting about ceiling leaks and pretended my life was not sitting in someone else's inbox. He responded 20 minutes later. "Hey man, I'm confused. Tessa told me you two had already opened things up." There it was. Not a dramatic confession. Not some movie moment with a found letter or a lipstick stain. Just one plain sentence from a guy who had no idea he was stepping into a trap with me. I screenshotted it. Then I asked one more question. "When did she tell you that?" His reply came while I was standing in a hallway outside the campus library, holding a clipboard and staring at a burned-out exit sign. "Early February. After the expo. She said you were both figuring out details, but emotionally you were there." Early February. 2 months before the dinner. I did not answer right away. I walked to the maintenance office, shut the door, and sat at my desk. Someone had left half a blueberry muffin on a napkin beside the printer. The radiator hissed under the window. Outside, students crossed the quad with backpacks over their heads in the rain. My world had cracked open, and everything around me had the nerve to stay normal. I texted Tessa once. "Me, we need to talk tonight. Nolan says you told him in February that we were already open." She called immediately. I let it ring. Then the text started. "Tessa, why are you messaging him behind my back?" "Tessa, this is exactly the controlling behavior I was afraid of." "Tessa, you're twisting things." "Tessa, we should talk in person, not create a hostile record." That last phrase made my skin go cold. Hostile record. Not hurt. Not confused. Not, how could you think that? A record. I replied. "Me, I'm available to talk tonight. I'm not going to argue by text." I also won't let you summarize my consent inaccurately. She did not answer for 3 hours. When I got home, she was not there. Her camera bag was gone, and so was the black jumpsuit from the laundry rack. On the kitchen table, she had left a note that said, "I need space from this energy." I stood in our kitchen laughing once, quietly, because apparently even betrayal had branding now. The climax happened at Tessa's mother's house, which was not where I wanted it to happen. Marlene hosted Sunday dinner twice a month. Usually, it was lasagna, salad from a bag, and Marlene asking if we had picked a first dance song yet. That Sunday, Tessa insisted we go even though we had barely spoken all day. She came home around noon, avoided my eyes, and said her mom was expecting us. "I don't think dinner with your family is a good idea," I said. "It would be rude to cancel," she said. "Tessa, please don't be weird tonight." I looked at her. Define weird. Cold. Punishing. Whatever this is. On the drive over, she stared out the passenger window. Portland was gray and wet, the kind of weather that makes every streetlight look tired. At a crosswalk, a guy in a yellow jacket walked a golden retriever wearing a tiny raincoat. I remember thinking, absurdly, that the dog had healthier boundaries than I did. When we got to Marlene's house, I understood why Tessa wanted me there. Her cousin was there. Her aunt was there. 2 bridesmaids were there, dropping something off, even though they had plates in front of them and glasses of wine poured. Dana had been invited, too, which never happened casually. She arrived 5 minutes after us, took one look around, and gave me the smallest shake of her head. It was not dinner. It was an audience. Marlene hugged me at the door, but held on a second too long. "We love you both," she whispered. That was not a greeting. That was a position statement. Dinner started stiffly. Lasagna, salad from a bag, garlic bread wrapped in foil. Tessa barely ate. Kelsey, one of the bridesmaids, kept glancing at me with a soft, pitying expression that made me want to leave my own body. Halfway through the meal, Marlene cleared her throat. "Tessa told me you two are navigating something modern and complicated," she said. Tessa stared at her plate. I set my fork down. "Did she?" Kelsey jumped in. "I think it's brave, honestly. People judge what they don't understand." Dana's eyes snapped to mine. Tessa touched my knee under the table. It was not affection, but a warning. Marlene said, "We just want you both to be kind to each other, especially if this was mutual at first and now feelings are changing." There it was. Mutual at first. Now feelings are changing. The story had already been distributed. I took one breath. Then another. "I need to correct something," I said. Tessa whispered, "Marcus, don't." I looked at Marlene, not at Tessa. Tessa asked me to open our relationship last week. Before that, I had never agreed to it, discussed it seriously, or told anyone I wanted it. The table went quiet. Kelsey frowned. "That's not what she said." "I know." Tessa's face went pale, then furious. "You're embarrassing me." "No," I said. "I'm refusing to be used as a prop." Marlene looked between us. "Tessa." Tessa's eyes filled. At first, there were no tears, just breath. "He's been punishing me for being honest," she said. "He agreed to talk about it, and then started monitoring me." I opened my phone with hands that were somehow steady. "I'm not here to punish anyone," I said. "But I'm also not going to sit quietly while people are told I agreed to something I didn't know was happening. I have the boundary document. With the date it was created. I have Nolan's message saying Tessa told him in February that we were already open. I have the shared calendar note about the retreat. I'm not showing all of that to humiliate anyone, but I will show enough to correct the timeline if I have to." Dana said, "Good." Just one word. It almost broke me. Tessa stood so fast that her chair hit the wall. "You went through my stuff?" "The calendar was shared," I said. "Nolan messaged me directly. And the relationship you tried to open was mine, too." Marlene's voice was quiet. "Who is Nolan?" Nobody answered. That silence did more than my screenshots ever could. Tessa grabbed her purse from the back of the chair. "I can't believe you're doing this to me." I looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I did not feel confused. Sad, yes. Shaky, absolutely. But not confused. "I told the correct timeline," I said. "Those are not the same thing." She left the room. A few seconds later, the front door opened and closed hard enough to rattle the little framed family photos in the hallway. Nobody moved for a moment. Then Marlene sat down slowly, as if her knees had given up. Her aunt stared into her wine glass. Kelsey's face had gone red. Dana stood, and picked up my jacket from the back of my chair. "We're leaving," she said. I nodded. Marlene touched my wrist as I passed. "Marcus, I didn't know." "I believe you," I said. That was all I had in me. I left with Dana, not Tessa. Tessa sent me 47 texts that night. I counted because the number felt ridiculous and because counting kept me from answering. They came in waves. First, anger. "Tessa, you made me look like a terrible person in front of my family. Tessa, you had no right. Tessa, you turned everyone against me." Then guilt. "Tessa, I was trying to save us, and you destroyed me. Tessa, you know how much public shame affects me. Tessa, I needed compassion, not a courtroom." Then bargaining. "Tessa, we can still go to counseling. Tessa, I'll cancel Bend. Tessa, we can close things again and reset." Then the sentence that ended it for me. "Tessa, if you had just said yes like a normal, supportive partner, none of this would have happened." I read that one in Dana's guest room while her cat, Pickle, tried to sit on my chest like a weighted blanket with claws. My overnight bag was half-packed on the floor because I had thrown things into it without thinking. Socks, phone charger, work badge, the flannel shirt Tessa hated because she said it made me look like a substitute teacher. Dana stood in the doorway with 2 mugs of tea. "You okay?" "No." "Good. That would be a weird thing to be okay about." I handed her my phone. She read the last message and made a face as if she had smelled spoiled milk. "You keep calling yourself calm," she said. "Sometimes you're just scared to make someone mad." I wanted to argue. I didn't. The next morning, before work, I emailed our wedding vendors. Not dramatically, not with accusations. Just one clean paragraph. "Due to the end of the relationship, the wedding scheduled for October 14th is canceled. Please send any cancellation forms or remaining balance information directly to me and Tessa separately." The venue replied first with a cancellation form and a refund policy that somehow managed to feel personally judgmental. The florist was Kinder. The DJ sent back, "Sorry to hear that, man," which almost undid me for reasons I cannot explain. Tessa called within 5 minutes of the first vendor reply. I answered from Dana's driveway, sitting in my car with the engine off. "You canceled our wedding by email?" she said. "I canceled the vendors. You don't get to decide that alone. I do get to decide whether I marry you." She went silent. I continued. "I'm coming by tonight with Dana to get clothes and work things. We can schedule the rest." "So that's it?" "Yes." "After 3 years?" "After what you did with those 3 years." My voice shook when I said it. I wished it hadn't, but maybe it needed to. I was not a machine. I was a person whose future had just been pulled apart in public and in private at the same time. The practical stuff took 2 miserable weeks. I moved into a short-term apartment near campus with beige carpet, loud pipes, and a view of a parking lot. It smelled faintly like fresh paint and someone else's microwave popcorn. I took the old couch, my tools, half the kitchen things, and the stupid air fryer I had bought on Black Friday and used exactly twice. Tessa kept the duplex because the lease was in her name first, but she had to buy me out for the deposits I had paid toward the wedding. Priya helped me write a clean, boring agreement. No accusations. No emotional language. Just numbers, dates, shared property, and payment deadlines. Boring was good. Boring left less room for performance. When Dana and I went back for the rest of my things, the apartment looked staged in a sad way. Tessa had taken down the engagement photo from the hallway, but left the nail in the wall. The bouquet drying from the cabinet handle was gone. My favorite mug was on the counter, washed and placed upside down on a towel, as a peace offering from someone who still wanted credit for being considerate. Tessa stayed in the bedroom while Dana and I packed. At one point, she came out holding the framed seating chart mock-up from the wedding planner. "Do you want this?" I looked at it. Little names arranged around little tables. A future reduced to cardstock. "No," I said. Her mouth tightened. "You're really just throwing everything away." I wrapped a stack of plates in newspaper. "No, I'm taking what's mine and leaving what isn't." She did not answer. Nolan messaged me once to apologize. He said he had believed Tessa when she told him I knew, and that he never wanted to be part of whatever this became. I did not become friends with him. I did not absolve him. I just replied, "Next time, verify before you trust the convenient version." Apparently, the vendor retreat became awkward before it even started. Nolan backed out. 2 planners who had heard Tessa's version asked too many questions. Her work did not collapse, and I did not want it to. But her little circle stopped treating her like a brave, misunderstood woman and started treating her like someone who had brought a private mess into professional rooms. That consequence mattered because Tessa cared deeply about rooms. Who was in them, what they believed, and who had the sympathetic version before anyone else arrived. Marlene called me a week after the dinner. I almost did not answer. Then I stepped outside my new apartment, stood beside the parking lot while a delivery truck beeped in reverse, and picked up. She cried for real. "I'm sorry," she said. "I should have asked you before assuming." I leaned against the railing. "Thank you for saying that. I love my daughter," she said. "But that doesn't mean what she did was right." "I know. Are you okay?" I looked through my apartment window at the boxes stacked against the wall, at the couch that looked too big for the room, and at the life I had not planned but was now responsible for. "Not yet," I said. "But I will be." Then I told her I needed space from the whole family. She said she understood, and I believed she meant it. That was one of the hardest parts. When you leave someone, you do not just lose the person. You lose the Sunday dinners, the group texts, the holiday assumptions, and the extra toothbrush in someone else's bathroom. You lose a version of the future that had furniture in it. For a while, ordinary things felt strange. Costco was impossible for a month because I kept reaching for things we used to buy together. Thai food tasted like that kitchen table. Rain on the windows made me think of the porch awning and Priya's voice saying, "Consent trail." At work, I fixed things because that was what I knew how to do. A broken lock, a flickering hallway light, a clogged drain outside the art building. Problems with visible edges. Problems where nobody asked me to call damage growth. 3 months later, I found the Google Doc again while cleaning out my drive. Relationship Boundaries Draft. I almost deleted it immediately. Then I opened it. The rules were still there, plain and reasonable. No secrecy. No retroactive consent. No shared social spaces. Counseling first. For a second, I felt embarrassed by how hard I had tried to make something fair that had never been offered fairly. Then I realized something. Those rules had not saved the relationship, but they had saved me. They gave me a line clear enough to stand behind when everyone else was being handed a fog machine. They made the truth visible. They turned my confusion into something solid. I used to think being a good partner meant being endlessly understanding. I thought love meant staying calm enough for both people. But sometimes calm is just the shape fear takes when it has been trained to be polite. Now I understand that trust is not proven by how much discomfort you can swallow. It is proven by what someone does when you ask for clarity. Tessa did not lose me because she wanted an open relationship. Plenty of people have those conversations honestly, carefully, and with respect. She lost me because she wanted my consent after the fact, my silence in public, and my name on a story I never agreed to live in. So, no, I do not regret asking for rules. The right person will not be afraid of transparency, and the wrong one will call it control the second it stops them from controlling you. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.